What is up guys, Earl here for Tech, and I got this idea of using an iPhone 6s for a week to see how this 5-year-old phone can hold up in 2020. I've been using an iPhone 11 as my daily driver, and switching to a 5-year-old iPhone kinda makes me a little bit nervous. I mostly do productivity tasks on my iPhone than on my laptop, from creating thumbnails, writing scripts, editing quick videos, and even creating a poster for a production. And using this iPhone for a week had an impact on the way I do things. Right off the bat, I can't help but notice the old design of the iPhone 6s. Well, at least on the plus side, it does have the aluminum design, unlike on the newer iPhone models. It has this glass back finish which catch fingerprints pretty easily. On the other hand, the screen isn't that good compared to the majority of today's smartphone design, like edge-to-edge display. Okay, I know, before you hate me in the comment section, I'm fully aware that this phone has been released 5 years ago. But at that time, some manufacturers had already been doing something different, like Samsung's Galaxy S7 Edge and Sharp's Aquos Crystal, just to name a few. But this isn't to say that the iPhone 6s is not a device for people who love media consuming on their smartphone. I mean, the quality is still okay, colors are quite vibrant, and since I have the Plus model, the screen is enough. After long periods of watching Netflix on this device, surprisingly, I didn't mind that huge forehead and chin of this phone, which is a good thing. But one of the letdowns of this phone when it comes to consuming media is its speaker's sound quality. It only fires up on one side and sounds a bit tinny, so if you are streaming media, I advise you to use headphones since it's still got that 3.5mm audio jack, the last iPhone to support that. And I might be one of the few people saying this, but I love 3D touch and I miss it. Though Apple replaced it with haptic touch on the iOS 13, but I find 3D touch faster than haptic touch since the screen is reacting to the pressure of your finger rather than holding the screen for a second to trigger this feature. On to performance, the iPhone 6s has the A9 processor, a PowerVR GT7600 GPU, and 2GB of RAM. Even with its age, it can still perform tasks you throw at it. Especially with the iOS 13, everything runs quite smoothly. And that's one thing I love about Apple. They are still supporting iPhones even if they were released half a decade ago. With the iPhone 6s's old processor, Apple manages to run iOS 13 on this device without compromising. But then, rumor says that iOS 13 might be its last software update, so keep that in mind. The unit I have here is the 16GB variant, which is pretty hard to use since all of the apps that I need requires a lot of storage. So I just ended up installing Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, basically all the apps that I need. Now, because of all of that, I didn't have the chance to install all of the apps that I used for editing and my other games since I only got very limited amount of storage to work with. That being said, having a 16GB smartphone in 2020 isn't enough, especially if you are a power user. Application these days requires a lot of storage as developers continuously improve features on their apps. Now let's talk about gaming performance. This device can run Mobile Legends pretty well. Although I noticed a couple of frame drops, the gameplay is smooth for the most part. When it comes to security, the fingerprint scanner on this device is pretty quick, although I find it quite challenging to register my fingerprint for some reason since it took me 3 times to register my fingerprints on this device. It has been easy for me to just pick up my phone, press the home button, and that's it. Although I love Face ID, but there are situations where I ended up typing my password because Face ID failed to recognize my face. Powering the iPhone 6s Plus is a 1715 mAh battery. I can't say so much about the battery performance on this particular phone because my unit's battery indicator says that the battery needs to be serviced since its maximum capacity is at 75%. And even with that, I can still use this device for like 2 to 3 hours straight. And it took me about 4 hours to charge it from 0 to 100. When it comes to camera, the iPhone 6s has a 12 megapixel primary sensor and a 5 megapixel front-facing camera. Since we're on a lockdown, I can't go outside to take photos, so I just took some inside my house. The iPhone 11 photos are stunning. Colors are accurate and HDR is better. iPhone 6s on the other hand doesn't have the variety of cameras like ultra-wide and telephoto and features like night mode and portrait, but for casual photography, this phone can still serve you just fine. Plus, it can also record in 4K at 30 frames per second. Now for price, some authorized Apple reseller already stopped selling the iPhone 6s, but we saw an iPhone 6s Plus for sale on PowerMac at 24,990 pesos. But you can also buy a used iPhone 6s for around 5,000 pesos. Now, to conclude this video, in my experience, the iPhone 6s can still perform pretty well in 2020. Even though I experience occasional lags on this device, that is probably because of my old battery. But doing basic tasks should be just as excellent. Now, do I recommend this iPhone? It actually depends. If the upcoming iOS 14 didn't excite you at all, then sure, this phone can serve you well. But if you did and you want to get the latest and upcoming iOS 14 from Apple, then consider looking for an iPhone 7 or even the iPhone 8. But comparing the iPhone 6s on today's upper mid-range Android smartphone, this phone is behind in many ways. Design, performance, camera, and screen, since most smartphones on this tier rocks an AMOLED display, larger camera sensor, and even an up-to-date design. Now, you evaluate. Is the iPhone 6s Plus usable in 2020, or are you using one? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you love this video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe to our channel for more content, hit that bell icon so you don't miss any future uploads, and be sure to visit yugatech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. This has been Arel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.